What's going on, college hoops heads? This is another episode of the One and Done podcast with Stephen Bagel and John Simpson. Again, I am one half of your host, Stephen Bagel. I am here with John Simpson, and I am here with a special guest. We have University of Oakland's forward guard, pretty versatile. I'm not even sure what to classify him as. Maybe we need to ask him himself. So that's why we brought him on, Trey Townsend. Trey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, of course. Before we get into the interview, Trey, recently, University of Oakland opened up with on Monday. You guys played Ohio State,
Yep.
and then you played Illinois last night. I mean, those are obviously, we're going to get into this, two powerhouses, essentially.
Yeah.
So, Trey, we appreciate you taking the time. Obviously, the season started, given, you had a game as soon as last night, that, you're able to come sit down and talk hoops with us a little bit.
For sure, yeah.
So, okay. So, John, go ahead and ask the first question.
Hey, Trey. Glad to have you here. So I think something I was kind of wondering about, and maybe to kind of get an idea more about, who you are and your basketball experience and stuff. Tell us a little about what it was like, playing high school, the recruiting process, and how you ended up at Oakland.
It's kind of a crazy story how I ended up here. So both my parents played basketball here at Oakland, my mom and dad. And my dad actually played for Campy, who's my coach right now. So I kind of had a relationship with him ever since I was born, and really, I guess, as long as I can remember growing up, going to games, all the camps and stuff. So we had a good relationship. He kind of knew who I was, I knew who he was. But on the recruiting aspect, growing up, I was never really highly recruited or things of that nature. And I didn't really get any college offers until my senior year of high school. So it took up until that time where I started getting some D2 offers. I think I only had like 3 Division II offers and then an NAI offer my senior year. And then Campy finally offered me a walk-on spot my senior year of high school because at the time they didn't have any scholarships available. And I honestly wasn't, as complete of a basketball player, I would say, as I am now. So I wouldn't expect to be a full ride Division I player then. But he gave me an opportunity to walk on, and I've turned that into opportunity into kind of where I'm at today.
Okay, so then let's kind of shift gears now into your college career. You guys had an Italy trip this past off season. What was that like? I mean, what teams did you play? What kind of experience do you feel like you gained from doing a overseas tour like that?
It was definitely a great experience for the team because nowadays in this transfer portal era, you always have new guys coming in and out of your program. And our team is no exception. We have 8 new guys this year on the team. So being able to find time to really get together and build chemistry with the team is kind of hard when you have all those new guys. Going to Italy for 10 days, you're only with those guys every meal, every second of the day, whether it's touring or playing games. We didn't have any practices when we were there. We were given 10 days of actual practice while we were in the States before we went over there. It was kind of like a rule for the foreign trips. But being over there, it was good because, like I said, we're always around the guys, got to know the new faces. And we played 3 Italian teams when we were there, and 2 of them weren't the greatest teams, which was kind of a good experience for everyone to be able to play some basketball while we were over there. And then the last team that we played was a team in, I think, the 2nd league in Italy, and they were a true professional, adult team. And that was kind of good to see where we truly stacked up physically and mentally, kind of basketball-wise, against a team like that. And even me personally, who has aspirations to play professional one day, it was kind of good individually for myself to see, what's, possible, where I could play at and things of that nature. So overall, it was a good trip, good 10 days there. And, I think everyone enjoyed it.
Man, that's cool to hear about. And kind of going from there, you played over there in Italy over the summer. You talked about kind of the team kind of coming together, kind of seeing what you guys are about. And then, you come into the NCAA season and you come right out playing some Big Ten teams, some good basketball teams. You were down to Illinois just by 1 at the half. You were beating Ohio State at the half. Played tough games with both those teams. You yourself had great games. What do you think that says about Oakland basketball and, about yourself?
I think it said a lot, those 2 games, because I don't know if you guys had seen our exhibition games before that, but we played 2 exhibitions against 2 D2 schools, and we actually lost the first one against the D2 school from Ohio, Walsh College. It was a great team, but it was just kind of, we didn't know where we stood at that point. It was kind of, feelings were all askewed because, losing to Division two, that's you're not supposed to do that in an exhibition game, but that's what those games are for. They don't count towards your record. They help you kind of put some things, in game situations that it's one thing to scrimmage every day in practice, but you got to play against other people that, kind of don't know what you're doing. So after that, that's where we really came together and, are showing people that maybe just automatically stop believing in us as a team, whether it was, fans from here or people talking on the outside. The Twitter world is ruthless nowadays. So, you'll hear things in house, out of the house. But those 2 games this past week were great, not only for us, but, our true fan base to see, like, those are exhibition games for a reason. This is what we're about. We're going to fight against these. Illinois is probably one of the best defensive teams in the entire country. And, we saw that last night playing against them. So being able to compete the entire game against both of these schools, those Power 5, Big Ten schools, is, only going to, give us confidence for when we play in our league and the rest of our Power 5 games the rest of the year.
So my question is, it comes a little bit from the film breakdown from what I've been working on with you. And I noticed, Coach Campy, you guys play a lot of zone. There's a lot of times you play at the top of the zone. There's a lot of times you play, at the bottom, even in the middle of the zone where you're playing center at times. Obviously, that makes you a versatile player. What kind of role do you envision yourself playing at the next level?
I kind of would say I would be doing whatever, like what got me playing here, which is, everything that's effort based, like, rebounding and defense. If that's something that got me playing in the first place here, knowing plays and kind of being just that glue guy that, on the stat sheet, you might not like think it's crazy what I've, done in the game, but true basketball people and team, like they understand team basketball would understand that's kind of where I see myself helping out, whether it's taking charges, playing defense, like I said, and rebounding. That's something I feel I can bring to a team at the next level. And then my size, I've been playing a lot. In high school, I played more of the guard, but my first 3 years here, I've been playing the 4 and the 5 a little more. So I feel like I'm well-rounded enough to guard almost 1 through 5, 2 through 5 for sure, and then the occasional point guard, I could see myself guarding man-to-man. So I think it just brings a lot of that grit and hard work to a team at the next level.
Okay, and that's important in today's basketball, especially when you're going pros, being able to, cover 2 through 5, 1 through 5, all that. So
yeah, absolutely. And talking a little bit more about you. So, you were elected, voted preseason all Horizon League first team this year. The only guy from your school. And then in the same polls or whatever, Oakland was picked to finish 6th in the preseason poll in the Horizon League Conference. As far as you being selected to the preseason, the all league first team, and then your team being selected to be finished 6th in the conference. How much do you pay attention to stuff like that, and how much of an effect does that have on you?
Honestly, the preseason stuff doesn't mean too much in my opinion. Last year I wasn't selected to any preseason team or anything like that, and our team was picked pretty low, I think, in the preseason, things of that nature, and I ended up being all league, and our team ended up finishing higher than they projected us to. And it's kind of all speculation, especially it's so much harder nowadays to, predict how teams are going to be with how many transfers are going to schools and how teams are going to mesh well. Cause a school might get, 2 or 3 amazing transfers. It's like, okay, they have these guys, they're going to finish top of the league, but they don't fit well in the system and they're going to end up finishing 6th or 7th because they just don't have that chemistry. Whereas a team, I'll say like ourselves on paper, we lost a all-American level point guard last year, Jalen Moore, who's playing professional in Iceland right now. So you see him leave a team where he's been leading us the past 3 years. Obviously, they're going to want to pick us pretty low because the point guard is a very important position in the game of basketball. But I'm sure after teams watching us play these 2 games this week, have a totally different mindset on, ourselves. And it's kind of, we've been believing in ourselves or betting on ourselves, and we don't really let those, like I said, I'll just call it the Twitter world, the social media world, dictate how we feel about our team ourselves.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about, growing up, getting recruited in high school. I know you mentioned your mother and your father both played hoops at University of Oakland. Your dad actually played for the same coach you're currently playing for.
Yeah.
Um, I suppose it's sort of a two-part question because you have, I believe, four siblings. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And your brother plays soccer at Oakland, which actually I believe he played in the championship today
He
after.
did. Yeah.
Did he win?
They lost 1-0.
Ah,
I
okay.
know.
So what is that like? What sibling are you? The oldest, the youngest?
I'm actually the middle child.
Okay.
So I got two older, two younger.
Okay. So what is that like growing up with such a big household? Obviously, both your parents played at Oakland. You wanted to follow in those footsteps. Your brother obviously followed in those footsteps in terms of soccer. But what is that like growing up with four other siblings, being in the middle, and trying to follow in your parents' footsteps as well? I mean, what did your siblings play sports at all?
Yeah, so my two older siblings weren't crazy into sports. My second oldest played, high school sports till she graduated, but never really like super competitive. Kind of just did it because, her friends and stuff were doing sports as well. But myself and my two younger siblings were really into sports, and we're all collegiate athletes now. So we kind of took that, like the athletic side of things, a little more serious, I'd say, than my older siblings. But my parents never really like geared us in a direction of what they wanted us to do. They wanted us doing something with our time. They didn't want us just sitting in the house and like playing video games or doing whatever all the time. So they were just like, whatever you want to do, like you got to make sure you give it full effort. Like whether you want to play an instrument, you want to, pursue some field in, education, just whatever you're doing, you got to give it 100%. And I just so happened, my siblings and I all found a sport that we love. My sister's playing volleyball at Saginaw Valley State, and she's a freshman this year. And my brother obviously plays soccer here, and I'm playing basketball. So both of our parents were just great in, like I said, not forcing us to do anything. So we didn't fall out of love with what we were doing. They just pushed us to, you know, do what we wanted to do and give it that effort, just try to pick something you enjoy to do, but like give it everything you have because you can make anything happen as long as you try your best. So that's kind of that.
Okay.
Kind of going along with what you talked about with your parents both playing at Oakland, you growing up, going to camp there, your dad actually playing for Coach Campy, having that relationship with Coach Campy before, and you've talked a lot about the transfer portal and the guys moving around from team to team. You've been true to Oakland the whole time, and you spent your whole college career there. I'm sure that, there probably would have been opportunities had you decided to move on after last season, especially, it's, some of the ball you played. And so I'm wondering how much did that legacy and your comfort, familiarity with the program have to do with you, kind of staying where you're at?
It really had a lot to do with why I wanted to stay here. The biggest reason why I did come here was like I wanted to play Division I basketball, and this was not only was it the only place that offered me the chance to do that, it's like 20 minutes from where I live, and like I said, I grew up wanting to come here. So it's just been ingrained in, me that like this is just like the school that, everyone has from being from Michigan. It's like you're either a Michigan or Michigan State fan, like you're diehard one of those two schools. And that was never the case for me. I would always be rooting for Oakland. Like we don't have a football team here, so I'm like not a fan of anyone else. It's just kind of, whatever Oakland's doing, I was a fan of. And growing up, the biggest thing was senior night for Oakland here. And I remember being a kid coming to the games, and on senior night, you could go down on the court and like talk to all the players and get autographs and, talk to Campy and take pictures with everyone. And I was like, that's something that I want to do when I'm, get to that age, and having the opportunity to be able to do that. This year I'm graduating, so it'll be the year that I finally, get to like fulfill that childhood dream where the roles are reversed now, where kids are coming up to me, taking pictures with me. It's kind of like a full circle moment. And I didn't want to go somewhere where my senior night wouldn't be like meaningful to me. I would say like a senior night here is like, I guess I'd say like a magical thing because it's like a full circle moment in my life for me. So I couldn't pass up on that opportunity to do that. And I had a teammate who came in with me my freshman year who stayed 2 years and then transferred to San Diego State. And they obviously went to the national championship game last year. So that played a little bit, and a little me being like, man, like like that'd be a cool feeling. But once like a week or two passed from that, I was like, okay, I know this is where I want to have my senior year and spend the time with my family, with them being able to come to every single one of my games. So I couldn't pass that up.
That's awesome, man. That's why we ask these questions, man. I like to hear stuff like that.
So, okay, I think we have one more question for you, and then John will get into the full court press, which we said is a new segment we're implementing where it'll kind of be a rapid fire type segment where you can answer however you see fit. You are a 4-year starter ever since you joined Oakland. How have you really seen your game evolve given you're kind of you were started as a freshman, so you were sort of given the keys in a sense to have the free reign to develop however you've developed as a basketball player. So how have you kind of seen your game evolve from when you were a freshman starting games up until now where you're on the cusp of graduating and you're getting ready for the pros?
Yeah, I kind of the whole my whole story kind of here is just crazy every time I really think about it. Like how many, I'll say, breaks I caught to be able to get to where like I'm at, and that COVID year that we had kind of helped me in a sense to where I was supposed to come in a red shirt my first year and then might not see the court or play until my junior year. So like 3 years after I got here, and that's when like I would maybe get a scholarship. And that COVID year allowed me to play while technically it being a redshirt year. So I was able to, get game experience. And I just did a lot of film work. And like I said earlier, rebounding is what got me on the court. And they threw me out there because no one else was rebounding. They're like, Trey, can you rebound? I was like, yeah, let's do it. And they just put me out there. I kept rebounding. And like you said, I started every single game that I've played here. So I'd say my game has expanded as my confidence has grown because I think I've always in high school it was pretty easy for me to build confidence because Oxford was where I'm from wasn't a big basketball school and we didn't play many great teams, so I was really able to expand my game basketball wise because I was fully confident in what I was doing there. But then once you get to college, especially my freshman year, I'm 17 years old. And I'm just like, I just want to do whatever I can to be on the floor. I'm not thinking about doing anything crazy offensively. I'm not thinking about really scoring. That was never my first thought. Then it was really just rebound and pass to the open guy. Don't turn the ball over. That's what my freshman year was like. And then as the years went on and I realized how much confidence my coaching staff had in me, I started just slowly getting back to what I was doing in high school, I would say. Whereas like my second year, I was really just doing post moves. I was shooting more, but they're mostly just back to the basket, post moves and occasional drive to the rim. And last year, I expanded out more because I think the biggest thing for me, especially wanting to play in the NBA, is being able to shoot the three consistently. And that's something last year I expanded my game out to try to do. And this year I'm trying to continue doing that. And this year it's kind of just everything is coming together confidence wise and skill wise, where I'm trying things that aren't like that too far out of reach in my mind of me to be able to complete. It's kind of like, okay, like this is something I've practiced, I've done before. Now I just go do it in games. And I have the blessing to not really worry about if I miss a shot being pulled out anymore, being a senior and having the experience. And that also plays into that confidence factor. But my coaching staff still has confidence in me that I'm able to make the shots that I'm doing now. And it's kind of just crazy to see how each year is, my game's expanded, confidence has expanded, and hopefully that just keeps happening throughout my career.
Absolutely. And again, you have the work ethic, so there's no reason why that shouldn't, continue. John, do you have the full court press questions up?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, then take it away.
All right. So like we said, this is like 10 questions, kind of a rapid fire thing we'll do. Find a little bit more about you. It's kind of a fun thing. So we'll just go ahead and get into it. You said you graduate this year. What's your major?
Communications and digital media production. And it would normally be digital media production, but they don't have that as a major here. So I had to have it as a minor.
Nice. All right. What's your favorite basketball memory?
Favorite memory, I would say my sophomore year we went to Oklahoma State and beat them at Oklahoma State in that historic arena. And that was the craziest thing because it came down to our Jalen, our point guard, had 3 free throws. He got fouled on a 3, and he made 2 out of the 3 to put us up by 1. And that was the loudest I've ever heard in arena basketball before. During those free throws, I've never experienced anything like it. Illinois was close to it yesterday, but that old arena, how wooden it is, and everything's just straight up in there. The fans are right on the court. Crazy experience there.
All right. Who's your all-time favorite basketball player?
All time, I'd probably say LeBron is who I grew up being a fan of. But I think now I'd say Giannis is my favorite, just all around player because I think he's a great guy off the court too. Just everything about him I love as a person. So I'd say probably Giannis right now.
Giannis is my favorite player too, for what it's worth. So good choice.
Yeah.
All right. What's something that most people probably don't know about you?
That's a good question. I'd probably say I'm really into aviation and airplanes and stuff like that. And I always wanted to be a pilot when I was younger, like a commercial pilot. And my dad and his family's from Anchorage, Alaska. And in Anchorage, the airport has a parking lot right at the edge of the runway. So every time we'd go there, my dad and I would just go plane watch commercial planes all the time. And I'm still a big plane nerd. I play Microsoft Flight Simulator all the time. So that's something that I just enjoy. It's a weird thing that I like. So
that's awesome. Who would you say is your best basketball comp?
Comparison, player?
Yeah.
I'd say Draymond Green just with a little more skill. I would say a little more offensive talent, but everything that he brings to a team, I feel that I bring for my team kind of, especially the last 3 years. This year, I'd say I'm a little more offensive minded, but to get where I'm at, I'd say I played a lot like him. Minus the flagrants and things like that.
All right. If there was no such thing as basketball, what would you be doing?
I want to say I would be a commercial pilot, but I actually don't have 20/20 vision, so I couldn't legally be one because I wear contacts. But I'd probably be a videographer of some kind because that's what I'm studying here, and I really enjoy doing that. My dad's a huge photographer, and that kind of got me into the space, but he never did any video. So I've kind of taken videography, and I do a lot of video editing and things like that. So I'd find something in the digital world to pursue.
Oh, that's cool. All right. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Ooh, probably to be able to teleport places, limit travel time anywhere. That's something that would just make life a lot easier.
I'm with you on that one. How did you choose your number?
It was my dad's number, and I'm not sure if he chose it because he was born on the 4th. So I don't know if that's why he chose it, but I used to wear 30 because that was my birth number. But then I saw my dad wore 4, and I always just wanted to be like him. So I just started wearing it, and I think it looks a little better on a uniform than 30. So stuck with that.
Nice. All right. Who's the best player you ever played with or against?
I'll say played against to save any controversy from people that I've played with. But I feel like first glance, we'd want to say Cade Cunningham, obviously the number 1 pick in the draft, but I didn't think he had a crazy game. So the guy I always say is Trevion Williams. He played at Purdue. Left, I think, a year or 2 ago. And he's just one of the most complete basketball players I've played against for his size. An amazing passer for being as big as he is, and amazing athlete for the size. So I'd definitely say him. He
was good enough that Zach Edey ended up being his backup for a year.
We played against that team my freshman year. So my true freshman year, we played against. I always had to guard Zach Edey and Trevion Williams. I'm 6'5", 190 at this time. I can't be doing this.
Wow. That's an assignment. 2 to 5, right? All right. Last question. LeBron or Jordan?
Like I said earlier, I think I gotta say LeBron. I hate debate doing debates like this and just saying one person over the other, but because I just respect everyone's game and just appreciate, the sport of basketball. But if I had to answer it, I have to say LeBron because that's who I grew up with.
Awesome. Well, that's it, man. That's the Full Court Press. We appreciate you.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you guys.
Okay, yeah. Trey, again, we appreciate you so much for coming on. You guys could catch Trey. Your next game is against Bowling Green, I believe, on Tuesday. Is that correct?
It is, yep.
Bowling Green on Tuesday. That's on ESPN Plus. You play Drake and then Xavier the following game, so that'll continue the tough schedule you guys are facing non-conference wise. So yeah, John and I are excited to see your game continuously evolve, like we talked about. And yeah, so you guys could follow me on Twitter at @the_NBAGel. That's NBAGELL. You can follow John on Twitter at JohnSimpson42. Rate and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Again, go watch Trey. Hell of a ball player, hell of a person. We're so grateful and gracious that he was able to come on with us. And John and I will talk to you guys next episode. We'll have to bring Trey back on to do a film session at some point, towards his graduation and probably the conclusion of the season. So thank you guys, and we'll talk to you next episode.